The FIFA World Cup is the biggest sporting event on the planet. Held every 4 years, it brings together nations from across the globe to compete for the most prestigious trophy in football. But the tournament we know today has evolved dramatically since its inception. So, let's take a look at the history of the World Cup, the key moments that shaped it, and how it became the phenomenon it is today. Let's start with the beginning. The first ever FIFA World Cup took place in 1930 in Uruguay. Now, Uruguay was chosen as the host nation because they were celebrating their centenary of independence, and they'd also won the Olympic football tournament twice in the 1920s. Only 13 teams participated in that inaugural tournament, far fewer than the 32 or now 48 teams we see today. The format was simple, with teams divided into groups before progressing to knockout rounds. Uruguay won the first World Cup, beating Argentina 4-2 in the final in front of 93,000 fans in Montevideo. It was a historic moment that laid the foundation for everything that followed. Now, the World Cup faced its first major challenge in the 1930s and 1940s. Due to the outbreak of World War II, the tournament was cancelled in 1942 and 1946. It wasn't until 1950 that the competition resumed, and it returned in dramatic fashion. The 1950 World Cup in Brazil produced one of the biggest shocks in football history. Brazil, the host nation, only needed a draw against Uruguay in the final group match to win the tournament. They were heavy favorites, and the Maracanã Stadium in Rio de Janeiro was packed with nearly 200,000 spectators expecting to celebrate. But Uruguay had other ideas. They came from behind to win 2-1 in what became known as the Maracanazo, one of the greatest upsets the sport has ever seen. The loss devastated Brazil, but it also demonstrated the unpredictable nature of the World Cup. The 1950s and 1960s saw the emergence of new footballing powers. Brazil finally claimed their first World Cup in 1958 in Sweden, and they did so with the help of a 17-year-old sensation named Pele. He scored 6 goals in the tournament, including 2 in the final against Sweden. Pele would go on to become arguably the greatest player of all time, and Brazil would dominate the era, winning again in 1962 and 1970. That 1970 Brazil team, in particular, is often considered the greatest international side ever assembled. They played beautiful, attacking football and won all 6 of their matches in Mexico. Their 4-1 victory over Italy in the final showcased their brilliance, and the images of Captain Carlos Alberto lifting the Jules Rimet trophy remain iconic. Now, before we continue, we should talk about the trophy itself. The original World Cup trophy was called the Jules Rimet Trophy, named after the FIFA president who established the tournament. Brazil were allowed to keep it permanently after winning their 3rd title in 1970. A new trophy, simply called the FIFA World Cup trophy, was introduced in 1974 and is still used today. Unlike its predecessor, this trophy cannot be won outright, and the winners receive a gold-plated replica instead. The 1970s and 1980s brought new drama and memorable moments. Argentina hosted and won the World Cup in 1978, though their victory was surrounded by controversy due to the country's political situation at the time. Then came 1986 in Mexico, which gave us one of the most talked-about matches in World Cup history. Argentina faced England in the quarterfinals, and Diego Maradona scored 2 of the most famous goals ever. The first was the infamous Hand of God goal, where he punched the ball into the net, and the referee somehow allowed it. Minutes later, he scored the goal of the century, dribbling past 5 England players to score a magnificent solo effort. Argentina went on to win the tournament, with Maradona cementing his legacy as one of football's all-time greats. The 1990s saw the World Cup expand and modernize. The 1994 tournament in the United States broke attendance records and proved that football could thrive even in a country where it wasn't the dominant sport. The format expanded to include 32 teams from 1998 onwards, allowing more nations to participate. France hosted and won that tournament, with Zinedine Zidane scoring twice in the final against Brazil. It was a changing of the guard moment. The 2000s brought us more unforgettable moments. Who could forget Ronaldinho's free kick against England in 2002, or Zidane's headbutt in the 2006 final? But perhaps the most significant development was the rise of Spain. They won the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, playing a possession-based style called tiki-taka that revolutionized how teams approach the game. It was also the first World Cup held in Africa, expanding the tournament's global reach. More recently, we've seen Germany's 7-1 demolition of Brazil in the 2014 semifinal, played on Brazilian soil no less. We've seen France win their second title in 2018 with a young, dynamic squad. And we've witnessed Argentina finally claim glory again in 2022, with Lionel Messi getting the one trophy that had eluded him throughout his legendary career. The World Cup has grown from 13 teams in Uruguay to 48 teams from 2026 onwards. It's evolved from a relatively modest competition to a global spectacle watched by billions. Through wars, controversies, and incredible moments of brilliance, the FIFA World Cup remains the pinnacle of international football, and its history continues to be written with each tournament.